Hello and welcome back to our How to Paint series of videos. The last few parts, if you have happened to join us, we are working on our Redemptor Dreadnought, I think it's called still. We kind of focused last time on this plasma gun, and I want to kind of continue that trend, so that's where we're going to jump right back in. But this episode is going to be all about dry brushing. I've actually never really done it too much other than just for edge highlighting, so this might get a little bit interesting. But we're going to start out with some Emmerich blue, and you want to buy specifically made for dry brushing brushes. There is a difference, and you won't get very far using regular brushes. And using paper towel, you want to get just most of that paint off. It is a little bit of a waste, unfortunately, but it's kind of unavoidable. And just kind of gently going in circles around our gun here. You can notice very quickly it is kind of appearing. And we're going to be using 3 different paints for this specific area. If I can keep it in view. Again, we're using kind of a bigger model. It is a little bit difficult. And don't worry about making too much of a mess. Anything that we screw up, we can cover up. And especially because it is going to be black for the most part, it's very easy to cover with a very thin layer. And we're going into the most awkward of angles here, trying to do circles with an arm in our way, unfortunately. But we're going to keep going until we just have a decent layer of coverage. You don't really want to go too dark or too heavy with your application here, but just a nice decent layer. Perfect. And so there's kind of 3 stages to this, and you can kind of do it differently depending on what paints you have and the effect you want. But generally you kind of want to do the darkest color first, followed by the lighter, and then finally the lightest color you have. And that kind of goes for normal painting as well, right? Excuse me while I try to find our second paint. There it is. So our next one is going to be Hoeth blue. This just happens to be what I have on hand. Try not to peek the microphone opening and closing these. Perfect. And actually, I should have given this a little bit of a shake before we did this, just to get a little bit more. This paint's actually very, very dry. That's fine. We'll kind of roll with the punches there. Maybe if this is actually picking up any. Wow. I don't think it is. I'll use a little bit more pressure. There we go. Now we're starting to get somewhere. And with that on our brush, it's not going to be very noticeable, but we will go back in, not nearly as much as we did with the last one, but we'll still just do kind of a few passes. And I'm actually not able to tell at all, so don't worry too much about this layer if you don't have it. If you only have blue and white dry brushing, that's fine. It just gives you a very much more kind of gradual diffusion effect, I guess. And again, the awkward angles are kind of killing me here. It's starting to look pretty decent, right? And now here's kind of the important layer, right? This is the one that we've been saving up for, and this is going to be our rack right white. Good lord, try saying that 10 times fast. And you can already hear this one's a little bit more willing to work with this. I don't know what's with that Hoeth blue. I think maybe it's just too dry, if that's a thing. Perfect. This is going on a brush much more easily, and this is actually turning into kind of a very light blue. We'll get a little bit more white in there. You can kind of get your brush cleaned off in between, but then I have to wait for my brush to dry again, and it's just kind of annoying. I really don't want to mess with that. And too much. The lighter your color, the harder it is to gauge how much you have on your brush, unfortunately. And we go very carefully. You still want to kind of follow just the same sort of area you've been going over, just a little bit more kind of carefully, you know. You don't want to go past any of your dark colors, if that makes sense. And it's a very much more gradual effect on this side now that our paint is kind of worn off. So maybe this is the more preferred side. I pay more attention to this one. This one's fine though. It kind of gives you just a better idea of the differences if it really shows on camera very well. And I kind of like this side a little bit more. It's much more gradual over here if that's an effect you want. Just have less paint on your brush. But if you want kind of a more stark contrast, do it like that. I like having both, and that's kind of how we're going to keep it. And moving on to the next step here, this is kind of the main point that I wanted to do this part for, and we will make sure our brush is nice and clean before we do any of this. We're going to be using the kind of technique of dry brushing to do an edge highlight, if that makes sense. And if it doesn't, I'll show you very quickly what I mean here. I am using Nurgling Green. The problem with Citadel paints, I really like their line. I love most of the Citadel products, in fact, is that their dry brushes are kind of limited. They have like 10 different colors, basically. It's not a great amount. But with that on our brush, and it's going to be weird angles all around, you just kind of want to steadily brush along the edge, kind of using the side of your brush if you can. Just very gently, especially as we get towards these smaller nooks and crannies. Just use that. If I can move my lamp here and get a little bit more leverage, use that side of your brush to get all of the edges you can. And this will give you a very quick and easy kind of highlighting effect. You can also do this with just regular paint, using the edge of your brush, but I find it's much quicker just to do it this way. And it is going along actually very well here. You might need to do a little bit of blending just to kind of make it look more natural, but it for the most part, I like the effect it gives just doing it this way. You just want to make sure you don't have too much of it on your brush, otherwise it will kind of just ruin the effect for the most part. It'll look like you just painted it on to kind of as a base layer instead. So you want to be careful of that. Yeah, we're at kind of a weird spot here as we kind of come into this little crevice. You can see we're gonna have to go back over that eventually, but it's much harder to do here, and we will try to get it on the opposite side as well. And before we end the video, I will go and kind of show you how to fix that up. Oh, don't worry, we're gonna have spots like that all over our model. It's not a huge deal. And again, on the other side, we're just doing the exact same thing. The more open and kind of bigger your panels are, the much easier it is to do this. I wouldn't recommend doing this on like your standard Space Marine. They're kind of too small, and it's just more of a pain. But Dreadnoughts are great for this. Vehicles, I have a Sentinel I eventually want to do this on. Maybe I'll do a video for that. But it's just great for anything that has really large panels and very big kind of obvious edges. And we are just rip-roaring through this. Kind of messed up a little bit there, that's fine. We'll go over that. And if you're doing a wash, something that I should have mentioned to start with, do your wash layer first, and then do your highlighting. Otherwise, it'll just kind of get rid of the effect. It blends it too much if it has a wash over it to make it really noticeable. So it just ruins the point, right? You could spend 20 minutes sitting here dry brushing your model to oblivion and back, and then you throw Millen oil on it and it just looks like you didn't do anything at all. So be careful of that. And we kind of want to be a little bit more delicate here as we get to the front panel. These edges are much smaller, but I think we can swing it. Perfect. Just pressing down very lightly, kind of using the very edge of our brush. There we are. I did do a little bit of work off camera, just kind of getting in the nooks and crannies I've been missing the past few parts. Turns out there's a bunch of them. and I still need to kind of finish it up before we do our final part, which will probably be the next episode. We'll just do kind of all the little intricate details, maybe a wash or two on some of the more metallic parts. We're not going to be doing any washes on these big panels though. I find that they tend to pull weirdly, but all the recesses we will be applying some Nuln Oil probably. Just everything that's still silver, just to kind of give it a bit of a more shiny, kind of grimy effect. And we won't be doing the basing in this series, or at least, I don't know how you say that. We'll be doing it as a standalone thing, I guess, is how I want to say that. It's all going to be one series in the end, but specifically for this model, we're going to be skipping on it for now, because once I assemble and build the whole combat patrol, then I'm going to do the base, and I'll just do like one big video for all of them, because number one, I think it deserves its own video. Basing is kind of an art, and I'm very lazy with it, but I do want to change that. And number two is I actually don't have the stuff I want to do the base with yet, and I need to order it, and that's probably going to be like another week or two. So, it gives me a little bit of time, and it just helps me focus on kind of the model itself in the series, which is what I want to focus on. Not that I don't want to do the base, I very much do, but we will dedicate a whole separate part to that. So once we finish this, we'll be doing the combat patrol. I'll probably do, so there's kind of two different ways I want to go with it, and I think I'm going to do it like this, right? I think I'm going to do like a whole separate video for each unit. Like I'll do one for the intercessors, I'll do one for the Hellblasters, and there's like a captain and a chaplain in it, I think. It's like 17 different models. And I'll do a video for each model individually. And then for like the rest of the squad, I'll just do like a big batch video where I just kind of paint and, don't really do like tips and tricks. I just like do commentary, right? just talk about other stuff. I think that'd be kind of fun. Maybe I'll like live stream it or something. And then once we're finished with all of it, then I'll go through and we'll do the whole basing thing. And maybe we'll do a whole video just on edge highlighting with a normal brush, and maybe then we'll do a whole video just on basing, or sorry, washes. We already covered basing. So, just a whole bunch of stuff down the pipeline that I'm kind of excited to do. And it gives me a chance not only to, kind of focus on things individually, but also it just gives me kind of more time to get more projects lined up, if that makes sense. Kind of doing a little bit of filler content. If you're like an anime fan, right? We're doing the filler episodes. Speaking of which, I've been watching Chainsaw Man. I'm not huge into anime, but I've seen a fair couple of them. It's so good, but it's like 10 episodes, right? And I hate that. I think season 2 is in the works right now. I'll be very sad if it isn't. I know it's like a whole manga, right? But I'm on like episode 5 now, and I really don't want to watch more because I don't want it to end. I had the same problem with Cyberpunk Edge Runners. I love that show, but it ends so quickly, and I was so disappointed in it. So that's kind of what I've been up to recently. I highly recommend it though. I really like Chainsaw Man. It really kind of surprised me. A lot of people that I know told me to watch it, and it was not what I was expecting at all. Speaking of anime, there is one that I really love. It's called Parasite the Maxim. If you're not an anime fan, that's fine. I'm not going to tell you to watch something that you probably won't enjoy. But if you have any interest in it at all, and you like kind of more, it's very well balanced between like action and like a romantic kind of thing. It's great. I think it's actually probably one of my favorite shows ever, even outside of anime. Highly recommend it. I think you should really give it a shot. Check it out. It's like super short. I think it's maybe 20 episodes, but they're very short. You could finish it in an afternoon if you were so inclined. But it is very good. I highly recommend it. I think the Warhammer Plus actually just got a new show. It's called Tithes. Tithes? What a weird word. And I wasn't too interested in it. I did cancel my Warhammer Plus. I really wasn't using it that much. And then I saw it was a Salamander and an Ultramarine, and that piqued my interest. And then I saw there's a scene where they're basically fighting Necrons, and I think it's the Salamander gets his arm cut off for some reason. I'm not really sure what happened there. But he's shooting his bolter, and it goes empty. And he tosses it to the Ultramarine, and he reloads it for him as the Salamander like knifes a Necron in the head. And the whole thing is just like John Wick levels of wild action, kind of goofy to that point. But man, it's so cool. Everything about it is just like, yeah, this is Warhammer. This is what I like. Now, if only we could get something that quality with the Imperial Guard. You know, give me an episodic Gaunt's Ghost kind of thing. That's all I want. You know, I just want more of Gaunt's Ghosts. I want more of Caiaphas Cain. I want more Inquisitor stuff. I love Space Marines. Don't get me wrong, but man, focus on the humans more. I say as I'm painting a Dreadnought. Don't worry, we'll do Imperial Guard shortly. I have a box of Acadian troops actually still in the package. They've been sitting in there for probably months now. I got them right before I got a 3D printer, and then I found some proxies that I really liked, so I started printing them instead, and they're still just sitting in their box. Very, very sad, very lonely, but I'll get to them soon, and we'll do a whole video on it. I really like Acadians. I like the old models more, unfortunately. I like that the new ones are kind of very detailed, and there's more kind of poses you can do with them. But man, something about the old Acadians just really, really strikes my fancy. I really like them. And unfortunately, I managed to pick up a single Combat Patrol box with them, and then they got replaced, and I just don't want to scour eBay for the old ones. I'd rather just get new ones to save me the headache, but I might see if I can't find some of the old ones to 3D print. I just really like them. And as we're kind of wrapping up with the beginnings of our edge highlighting here, I won't make you watch all of this, just off camera. I'll kind of go back and I'll do everything I've missed. I do want to kind of go back over some of the areas we messed up a little bit on, and I want to kind of show you how to fix that. It's not difficult, but you can very easily kind of undo your progress. So we're going to go back to our Caliban green, and I should have a small brush sitting around here somewhere. Perfect. I wasn't actually planning on doing any normal painting, so forgive me, it takes me a second to set this up. And we'll get a little bit of water on our brush, we'll get a little bit of paint, not too much, we're just doing this small section. And we'll do kind of the most obvious example here, just with a little bit of thinned down paint. You don't want to get the edge, but just everything around it. And we just want to kind of blend as much as we can, being careful. And maybe that was a little bit too thin. Good news is it'll dry very quickly. Actually, it's almost fully dry. That's how you know I really didn't put enough paint on there. We'll just go back over it again. This may take you one or two layers, that's fine. You just don't want to touch the edge, because then you'll have to go over it again, and then the odds are that you'll do the same thing you did in the first place. So don't do that. If you really want to take the time to do it as well, using a very small brush, you can do all these little rivets. Just do them like silver or something. It'll make your model pop even more. But I don't have the patience to really do that. There's a lot of them. Maybe at some point, if I was doing like parade ready, we would go ahead and do that. But man, for the most most part. I just, it's too much. Especially for, having the combat patrol be the next thing I want to work on. There's just bigger projects to get to. And as this dries, we're going to go over it one last time. Again, our paint is very thin. Very quick little run over. And there you have it. We still have the edge there, and it looks much more cleaned up, especially once it dries. And that, as I knock the camera, is probably going to be it for this episode. I do have a Patreon. If you guys like this and you want to see more videos like it, it helps me kind of pump out more things more often. Helps me get new models, helps me get better recording equipment. Right now I'm just using my phone and a pretty terrible tripod. We'll kind of get this into focus here. We'll do another episode or two of this. We'll come back. We'll clean up some of the stuff that we messed up a little bit. I'll finish the edging, wording. I'll finish the edge highlighting on, in between parts. That way you don't have to watch all of it. But overall, we're very close to being finished. We just have quite a few little bits and bobs to wrap up, and we'll be done. And again, we won't do the base in this series. We'll go and we'll do a whole separate video for that. So don't be shocked when I come to the conclusion and that isn't a thing. just forewarning you. But very shortly, I should have that out as well. So don't worry about having to wait too long for it. As always, though, thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you really want to. It greatly helps me kind of gauge, how I'm doing, and it gives me feedback, and that's all I can really ask for. Other than that, though, thank you very much, and hopefully I will see you in the next episode.